So Katka and me, we are going to talk about ways of bringing biodiversity, rich meadows back into the hearts of our communities. By doing so, we are going to touch on two important and interconnected aspects in the area of conservation. One is the practice of biodiversity-friendly management itself. You heard about it in the two previous talks as well. And the second one is awareness raising and education. And that's actually as important as the selection of the right seeds is. So the Blühlinge project stretches out between Vienna and Bratislava. And here on the map you can see the project areas and the communities in which we are working. In Austria, it's basically the Machfeld which is covered. And the Machfeld is one of Austria's most intensive agricultural areas, as you can see here in the picture. So what we want to do with our project is create biodiversity-rich meadows in the municipalities and in the gardens in this area that act as oases in an agricultural desert. So here on this slide you can see the basic idea of the project. So what we want to do is create small kind of stepping stones, small habitats for butterflies, but also of course for other insects like bees or beetles and so on. So, but why are awareness and educational activities so important in this context? Today, we are increasingly alienated from nature. We don't see it anymore, even when it is in front of us. And actually, this becomes a vicious cycle. Species are disappearing out of our view before they disappear from our surrounding. But luckily, our brains learn and adapt quite quickly, even in an unconscious way. So we try to make use of this also in our school workshops. Very simple, but I think a very, very powerful element for all of our school workshops is to take the kids outside, to show them how to look at and for butterflies. So what we do is we catch some of them with them, and I can tell you there's actually a little more exciting for kids is to try out to do that with a butterfly net themselves. Of course, we always supervise them on that to take care that the butterflies are not harmed. And it is important, but it is very, very important for the kids to be able to experience nature directly. To see that they can touch these animals, to take a closer look at them, to recognize the differences between the species, and also the small details, like for instance, the colors and patterns of a butterfly eye and so on. And what we usually see at the end or towards the end of the workshop is that the kids notice much more butterflies in their surrounding than they would have before. They suddenly see them because they have engaged with those animals, and so they have acquired a meaning for them. Also, in their work on attitudes towards nature, Hosaka, Sugimoto, and Numata have found that childhood experiences with nature are much more important than other socioeconomic factors in shaping our later attitudes towards nature. So they conclude, and I think that's really, really important, that biodiversity conservation initiatives in cities should place greater emphasis on providing children with more interaction with biodiversity or with nature in general. You can also test this kind of butterfly effect on yourself. And when was the last time you've seen and recognized a butterfly? So if you're not a butterfly or insect person already, you can probably observe this effect right by yourself the next time you're outside, and remember this talk. Another part of our project is the installation of educational paths or installations. They are set up in Vienna, in Langenzersdorf, and in Mrg in Austria, and in Bratislava in Slovakia. Again, we try to provide an eye-opener for the visitors by pointing out what they can see and find in the direct surrounding. Additionally, we use art. In Austria, photos from the artist Michael Bachhofer, and in Slovakia, theater performances to touch the emotions and the hearts of the people. So here you can see one of the artworks, an Osterluzei-Falter or Southern Festoon, which will be displayed as a free to 2 meter print at the railway station in Mrg. So there's a strong interlinkage between the awareness raising and the way we perceive nature. And the second important activity of our project, the creation of biodiverse meadows in municipalities and communities. So together with the cooperating municipalities, we want to enrich public land in terms of biodiversity. As you've heard in the 2 talks before, grassland can be very rich in biodiversity. What we see on most public land is also grass, but actually it looks more like this. Or maybe like this one. Both types of meadows are not very rich at biodiversity at all. So how do we get to something which looks more like this, a species-rich meadow? Well, actually, what applies for your garden also applies for the management of public land. No fertilizer or pesticide use, and only and a reduced mowing regime, like only mowing 1 or 2 times a year. And hey, I mean, wouldn't that sound great if you're a mayor with a tight budget? I mean, stop buying fertilizer and pesticides, and especially saving precious and costly working time, because lanes, meadows, etc. are only mowed 1 or 2 a year instead of every 10 days. Well, it should. But still, most lanes, embankments, and other public managed areas look like this, where these type of areas would provide much more space and niches for insects and other animals. Also like this one here. And even for humans, sometimes leaving just a bit of room for nature will create places that not only animals need to survive, but also places we enjoy, as they help us to escape our hectic lives, like this little city wilderness in the heart of one of Vienna's biggest development projects. But actually, if you're a mayor, there's again a problem with the way we perceive our surrounding and the nature within it. What will the people say? They will think we are lazy or sloppy, is something we very often hear from mayors or other municipality workers in Slovakia as well as in Austria. And actually, there's an own project in Austria which is only focusing on this topic, using cabaret and illustrations like this one. So the lady is saying, hey, when will you tidy up? Which tries to point out that nature needs place, and that being a bit sloppy or lazy might just create those places nature needs to strive in. So in the project, we therefore also provide information which the municipalities can place directly at the slots. Here, an example of such a sign from Langenzersdorf in Austria. So besides these common activities which are performed in Austria and Slovakia, there's also a unique element in the Slovakian project part. It is the management of Sahoria, which is the largest inner sand dune region of Europe. And well, Katka will tell you more about this now. So Katka, I hope you can hear us. The floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much. I will just use the last few minutes, as we are lacking time a bit, to show you one of our project localities of Project Blühlinge. We are just preparing for the big management works in military training area Záhorie, in one of the shooting ranges. And for us, this is really a biodiversity hotspot. So I will just use the opportunity to really also change a view of the country around. Most of people perceive or imagine that military land is probably something that is very much destroyed and ugly. But as you can see, military is needed, but there's also a huge space for the life, for different species. Our locality is a Natura 2000 site of community importance. It's called Šranecké Piesky. And it's very important to mention that it's really active shooting range with operations going on 5 days a week. sometimes more often. So it's quite a challenge to organize the management works, but we hope that we will manage. This locality is really needed to be open, as also the sand dunes and also the heathlands need open space. And the biggest threat to these localities is overgrowing by Scotch pine. So we try to help keep it open. But we are very thankful also to the military that they still operate in the place, because it's really valuable for many different species of plants, animals, and we value the land very much. And maybe just a few words at the end. As we've heard people speaking before, I think it's very useful, and this is for me the biggest aim of the project, to communicate with people and to make them see the beauty of the country around, and to value all the green spaces, to value our gardens, to really in each view of the nature around, to see what we can do for the biodiversity and what we can do to share the land with the other living beings around. So thank you.